Hope everybody's doing really well. Really excited to be on here with all of you. Before I start, just want to let everyone know I want this session to be as interactive as possible. So please take advantage of the Q&A chat function here. To get started, please let me know where everybody is from, everyone's watching from, what camp you represent. Would love to see who I know, who I might not know, but really excited to have everybody here. And so just to get started, a little bit about myself. My name's Andrew Exler. I'm the founder of My New Summer. We're an organization who our mission is to help camp people prepare for life after camp. We really put a focus on camp staff, want them to be able to develop professionally, prepare them for their lives, because we understand, we love camp. We know a lot of people who are working camp don't always stay at camp forever, but we want to be able to help keep the people at camp as long as possible before they make those decisions. We also want to work with the ones who do want to stay at camp forever, and while they're still in their seasonal staff age group in that 18 to 24, 25 age range, we want to help develop them professionally, help them prepare as much as possible. So when they get into the professional world, whether it's in camping or not, they'll be able to thank their camp experiences. A few other things about myself. I'm also the director of content and strategy at Lost Tribe Esports. So some of you may have just come from the session with Brian, where we also work with Collected Camp, doing esports for Jewish teenagers around the world, which is really exciting. And then also I have my own social media marketing business called Andrew Exler Consulting. And that's something that I always did as a hobby and ended up starting it for my full professional life. I'm born and raised in Pittsburgh. I still live in Pittsburgh today. If we have any Steeler fans here, I'm a big Steeler fan, so hopefully there aren't any Browns or Bengals or Ravens fans on here, but we'll let it slide if that's the case. I also worked for BBYO in youth development for 5 years, and I went to Emma Kaufman Camp for 16 summers. Emma Kaufman Camp is a camp of the Jewish Community Center of Greater Pittsburgh. I was there since I was 7 years old. I was a unit head. I was an athletic supervisor, junior and senior counselor. It was everything to me at the time while I was still going to camp. And it really changed my life. It led me and built me into the person I am today. And so to get started, we're all camp people here, everyone who's on this call right now. And how often, and feel free to type in if you agree, how often in your camp life have you been told, when are you going to get a real job? When are you going to get into the real world? Saying that camp isn't the real world, saying that there isn't value in what you're doing at camp. Because for me, it happened all the time. I went to camp until I was 24 years old. I did take a few summers off in between for some other work, but I knew that was a place I wanted to be until I couldn't be there anymore because I wasn't working in the camping world as a professional. But a little bit about my story. My senior year of college, I went to Ohio University. In 2012, I was asked to come interview for my first job. I wanted to work in sports my whole life. And I had a job interview for a sales job with a team in the National Basketball Association. Super excited to go, and driving up, very nervous, very naive 21-year-old at the time. And I'm sitting in the room with one of the employers who were interviewing me, and he's sitting there, and I'll never forget it because it just pretty much traumatized me, is he's looking at my resume, and he looks up and looks down and looks at me. He's like, all right, where is it? Where's the real one? And I had no idea what to say. I was like, this is my real resume. He's like, this is 4 years of camp experience on it. This is a joke. Where is your real resume? And I had no idea how to respond. Just nervously tried to get out of that room as quickly as possible. Got absolutely berated from someone who didn't understand the camp world, which is totally okay, but just got berated for it, telling me there was no value in my camp experience, telling me that what I was doing was a joke, that I should have been spending my time elsewhere. And so at the time, I call a mentor of mine on my drive back to school from the interview. And I just said, I was like, hey, Tom, what do I do? Because I can't take camp off of my resume because I'll have nothing. And I can't lie because you can't lie. What do I do? And he just said, he's like, Andrew, how can you sell what you've done at camp? This is what you have. I had a few other internships on there, but I had 4 years of camp as a junior counselor, senior counselor, as a head staff member. And I was like, you know what? Well, when I was a unit head, I was in charge of 250 children. I was managing more than 40 staff at the time. I was providing feedback, doing all of these management supervision items for all these staff, while also making sure that I was taking care of the lives of 250 plus children, all while doing everything that we all know we do at camp, because everybody does a little bit of everything. So I started to realize that when I was at camp, my time management skills got perfected. My interpersonal communication skills are excellent. I can resolve disputes. I can come up with programs. I can work well with anybody. Just being able to start to articulate everything that I learned while I was at camp. And then it started to click. And then I ended up getting my first job. I started out working in the sports world with the Columbus Blue Jackets of the National Hockey League, excuse me, as my first job. And while I learned that I did want to take my career elsewhere, using my camp skills in those interviews really helped me to go far. And I learned a very valuable lesson that I wish I would have learned a long time ago while I was at camp. And it was really understanding how valuable my camp experience was. So for me, that's part one of my story. Part two is a little bit of how my new summer came to be. And feel free to check us out at mynewsummer.org. Would love for you to take a look and talk with us. But so in my work with Lost Tribe Esports, right now we understand what is happening in the world. We understand the pandemic is impacting everybody around the globe. This is the first time anybody here has experienced something like this. And unfortunately, it has caused the majority of camps to have to cancel summer 2020. My camp, Emma Kaufman Camp in Pittsburgh, they announced last week that they canceled for the summer, and it's absolutely heartbreaking. But this is a time where it's time to pivot and be proactive and save summer 2020, because we know we're ready for summer 2020, 2021 to come back and come back roaring. And we know it's going to be great. We've got to get through this summer. So with Lost Tribe Esports, what we've been doing, we've been partnering with camps and day schools and youth groups and everything else, because we want to provide virtual opportunities to camps to provide for the campers right now. And in all these conversations we've been having when we onboard a camp as a partner of ours to work with us, it's all about the campers. It's all about making the families happy and giving the campers something to do. And trust me, campers are the most important part of camp. But I started to ask the question, what about your staff? What's going on with all these people who had their summers committed to you? And now 2 weeks before June starts, they're being told that they're out of a summer job. And the majority of them have said lovingly, we're working on it. We're trying to figure something out. We're trying to do something internally. But right now we have to focus on our campers and providing programming. And for me, the light bulb clicked. Knowing how valuable staff are, and then knowing how many camps are around the country, globally, the thousands and thousands of seasonal camp staff members who were left without anything to do this summer. In most cases, they were left scrambling in some situations. And I called our co-founder, his name's Tyler. He couldn't be here today. And I just said, I was like, hey, what are your thoughts on professional development opportunities and building a community for camp people now, and also building something out in the long run? That's how My New Summer was born, because we understand that the camp staff, seasonal staff, just that 18 to 24-year-old age group, tends to be the forgotten age group, because there's youth groups and everything when you're in high school. When you graduate college, there's young adult programming. There's a lot going on. Of course, you have your Hillels. You have all of your other collegiate organizations for people during college. But oftentimes when it comes to the professional development, college students are forgotten. For us, and for me, because I don't want anybody to ever have to experience what I went through in my first job interview, because I didn't know how to sell my camp experience. We want to be able to help educate your staff on that. And in return, you're going to help to retain your staff at your camps, because you're going to provide them professional development opportunities during the 2 months of the summer, but also the other 10 months of the year. Once they realize how much value they are getting by being at camp, and also by their camp staff now providing professional development opportunities, helping them with their resumes, helping them with interview prep, giving them a mentor, giving them coaching and a network, they're going to want to come back to camp. Because let's be real, most internships, a lot of the times you're going to be memorizing coffee orders, you're going to be plugging away at spreadsheets all day from your small cubicle. But why not go to camp, have the best summer of your life like you always do, and then get to walk away saying, by the way, these are all the valuable traits that I was able to get while I was at camp. And you're going to be able to sell it to somebody who isn't a camp person. So you never have to go through what I go through. So I hope I am the example of the one person who had to deal with it on the negative side, but it worked out. So really excited to talk a little bit about that. Again, continue to ask questions throughout this session, and we'll save some time at the end. For me, what is really important and to help get this value across is I do have two of my staff members at My New Summer on this session right now, Dina and Abby. So Dina and Abby, if you can turn your cameras on. So they're coming on, and a little bit about Dina and Abby, a little bit of transparency. When I used to be the director of BBYO in Pittsburgh, Abby and Dina were both teens of mine at the time, back when they were still in high school. So I got to know them very well. And when we started My New Summer, it worked out very well that they both are college students now who their summer programming was canceled. So the pandemic hit them and impacted what they were planning on doing. And they realized what was going on at My New Summer and that we had some opportunities to bring them on in an internship role for the summer to help them build what we're doing. And now here they are. I'm really excited for them to talk a little bit about why professional development at their age has been so important for them. So Abby, I'll let you start.
Hi everyone, I'm Abby. I'm an incoming junior at Temple University. I'm a film and media major. I am the content manager for My New Summer. So I have known Andrew for a really long time, and it was a no-brainer that I wanted to be a part of My New Summer when I saw he started it. I think it's really important for people of my perspective to have that professional development on the side, because being an art student, we don't really get that as much. We're so focused on art and our creative experience that we kind of forget the business side and how to market ourselves. And I was also in BBYO for a couple years in high school, so I didn't really know how to use that on my resume. But through this kind of community, I have learned how to market myself and how to use those skills.
Hi, I'm Dina. I'm a rising sophomore at the University of Pennsylvania, majoring in computer science. Similar to Abby, I've also known Andrew for quite a while because I was also in BBYO, like he said. And I was really excited when I saw My New Summer. I immediately got the mission and wanted to get involved. And I'm glad I did. And a little bit about why professional development is important. It's kind of skipped over for us, and especially for people in the camp world who are doing things where they're not really told, you're gaining interpersonal skills, you're gaining communication, organizational skills like that. You don't even realize you're gaining those skills. In my time at BBYO, I gained so many of those important skills, but really only realized it now once I joined My New Summer. So it took joining My New Summer and kind of understanding it to realize that I had gained those valuable skills. So I think the mission is really great and will definitely help a lot of camp people and people in similar situations.
Thank you both very much. Having both of them on this call was so important for you to be able to really see and hear directly from the demographic that we're working with. I wish I would have had someone sit me down and say, Andrew, 10 years ago, Andrew, this is the challenges you're going to be faced with when you get into the professional world. Here's how you're going to be able to talk about everything you're doing and how you're going to get yourself through it. And now that's what we want to do. Our goal is we plan to come to your camps in summer 2021 and beyond and be able to provide workshops with your staff and sit down with them and provide all of these different opportunities, helping them with their resume, et cetera, working with professional camp staff, because I appreciate more than anything the work that professional camp staff do. I appreciate the camp directors and staff directors and development directors and everybody who are there at camp all summer, who are spread so thin. You have so many hats that you have to wear. It's very easy, and it's very hard to have the capacity to be able to give the focus where it's needed in all areas. So our goal is to come in to be able to make the lives of camp professional staff a little bit easier, while also helping to have your staff members enticed to stay that extra summer or two, because we want people to be at camp. I would do anything to go back for another summer at camp, and understanding that if there's an opportunity where I knew there was a professional focus on everything that I was doing, that would make me want to go back, compared to even considering another internship, knowing that I also get to have the fun of a summer at camp like we always have. One of the things that I always have talked about, and I wrote a blog about it, and there is a link to the blog in the text here on this session. I wrote a blog called Why Former Camp Staff Will Become Your Best Employees. And this is something I have talked about long before I wrote this blog, of why camp people make the best employees, whether it's in the camp world or whenever they get to whatever business role or marketing or creative or film, whatever they're doing, they become the best staff members. And it is so important to help those staff realize why. Why is it so important for them? So I'm going to share my screen, and I definitely encourage you to take a look at this blog when you get a chance. I think you might find some of the details of it to be very relevant and very interesting for you. So here is, this is on my business's website. Here's a picture of myself and two friends of mine at Emma Kaufman Camp. We actually took this picture last summer. I was invited down to speak to the teenage group of boys. I spent a night at camp, and these were two of my first friends that I met at camp. Also getting the opportunity to go back since we met in the late 90s. So really exciting to get to go there. But what I talk about a lot in this article is really that why. It's why are camp people so valuable? And what are those things that we don't really realize that we're doing? And I'm just going to run through a couple of these. When you talk about reliability and how that relates to going into your professional life, employers need people who are reliable. They need to know that their employees are getting their work done. They're going to show up for work on time, and they're going to work hard. You're getting that with camp people because we know you need your camp staff to be reliable, to make sure that they're getting the programming on time, to make sure that they're taking care of the children, to taking care of other people's children, make sure everything is clean, making sure they're being fed, making sure they're showering and brushing their teeth. We know how important that trait is. Camp staff have the best communication skills because they have no choice. You might come into the summer a bad communicator, but you're going to leave an excellent communicator, because you truly can't thrive at camp without being able to communicate. That's being able to communicate with your staff, your co-staff, your supervisor, and most importantly, the kids. You need to be able to know how to have a conversation with a 6-year-old just as well as you have to be able to talk to an 18-year-old. And we know that we're getting that with camp staff. You're not going to find simply enough, you're not going to find anybody more passionate than a camp person. And I joke in the blog that they might get to their employer in the professional world and want to write a cheer about what they do at their company. We know that might be taking it too far, but camp staff are the most passionate people that we know. Whenever I'm out being able to talk about the work we're doing at My New Summer or what I do with Lost Tribe Esports, I'm passionate about it because I love it. And I wouldn't do something I didn't love. And a lot of that came from camp, making me realize that you need to do things that make you happy. Camp people are problem solvers. I can guarantee everybody in this situation has been sitting in their dining hall and it starts raining and you have 300 plus campers that you have to come up with a program for in the next 5 minutes. That's something that we're all experienced with, and we know stuff comes up in life. And those are types of employees. Those are the traits that camp people learn, is they can come up with a program in their back pocket. They can resolve disputes and handle anything like that. Camp people have to be very empathetic. We know we're dealing with disputes. We're dealing with homesick children. We're oftentimes at camp, you unfortunately have to assist people through a grieving process, and being empathetic is so important. And that's such an important quality going into whatever career that you're taking, because you want to be able to empathize with your colleagues, with your supervisors, with your clients, because you want to have that human brand behind everything that you're doing. And I saved time management for last, and I said it earlier on this call. Camp people have the best time management skills that you're going to find. They have absolutely perfected the art of time management. And that's because you have to go to 10 to 15 programs a day. You have to make sure that your 8 to 12 person child bunk is showered, hair brushed, teeth brushed, cleaned up, beds are made, trash is taken out, floors are swept. Making sure you're doing all of this while getting to every meal on time, while getting to all of your programs on time. And for us, understanding that is just so important. And those are some of the basic traits. I'd love for anybody to chime in if you have others that I didn't mention, and that there are plenty of them. But when I'm talking about myself, and when I pivoted to start selling my camp experience to these employers when I started interviewing, and now when I talk about it, those were the key points that I hit, because it's such a transition from camp into whatever career someone's going into, to be able to understand that these are the values that I took away when I was at camp. So with that, I would love to open this up to questions, hear from all of you. And as well, if you don't have any questions right now and something comes up later, please absolutely reach out to me at any time. My email is andrew@mynewsummer.org. It's also on our website. So please enter any questions you have, and I'm excited to answer and provide as much as I can for you. And it's also nice to see we have looks like we have some participants from across the country and in Canada. So very excited. I see Camp Louise on here, who the My New Summer has quite a few people who have come in from Camp Louise. So very excited to see you on here. Okay, so question from Catherine. What's one of your favorite interview questions to screen staff for the traits you mentioned? We have to hire so many staff, but I never want to hire warm bodies. Honestly, I ask them, whenever you ask someone their strengths and their weaknesses, you can pretty much tell someone who thinks about it and someone who really hasn't put up much effort into those types of questions. Because when I ask someone, or when I get asked a question, what are my strengths? I really try and think deeper than just what are those common traits that people are looking for. But when I ask that question, strengths and weaknesses, I really don't care about the person's strengths. Honestly, I want to hear someone tell me their weaknesses. And that's really where you can weed out a lot of people, because you'll always get the weaknesses of, I try too hard. I work myself too hard. The people who really try and self-promote, but the ones for me personally is when someone can really recognize their weakness and say, this is something I'm working on. For me, that is a major screening question to know who has really thought about what are they working on, compared to someone who can just pull something right off of the first search that comes up on Google. Thank you for that question, Catherine. So first question from Lauren. What advice do I have on virtually training staff? I think it's a really interesting opportunity because this is the virtual side of things and being able to take camp year round. And I'm actually going to be talking about this a little bit at the end of the conference, as I'm going to get interviewed with Dotan and Eileen from In the City camps. Virtually training staff, that is exactly how you're going to be able to keep staff engaged year round. For me, my only real connection to camp while it was during the school year was they would invite us or ask us to come help staff a weekend back at camp in the winter. But the advice is to make it happen. I mean, whether it's training or just finding ways to engage staff virtually, this pandemic has completely changed our world. And it is not, there is definitely going to be a before and an after. And the camps that really pivot and proactively accept change, I mean, we know we are ready and excited for summer 2021 to get back to normal, whatever normal means. But also it's going to be so important to accept the change, accept the virtual world and how it's going to be able to benefit us so much moving forward. So definitely my advice is to start engaging your staff, having virtual training sessions, bringing on other professionals from outside of your camp, whether you're an independent camp or you're within an affiliated organization with multiple camps, bringing other professionals in to really show your staff that you have that focus for them, because they are that forgotten group. So next question. Hi, so Camp WIP began at the beginning of June and runs through July. We are struggling to keep our counselors engaged. Our counselors are majorly slacking. How do we handle that, plus encourage them? That's a great question. And so for us, I mean, again, it's the engagement piece is so important just for anybody. If you don't hear from an organization that you work for or something that you're a part of for a long time, you can tend to forget about it. And it's going to be really important this summer to keep camp staff engaged, especially if they're not at camp, because who knows what is to come next summer. But we know we want to have as many people back in summer 21 as possible. So one for encouragement is that you need to show them that how much you value them. And it just comes back for me, what I would have loved to see when I was at camp. And I went to camp as long as I could until I did make a move into the career that I had been working for while I was at school. For me, the encouragement would come in knowing that my camp staff are putting a focus on my professional development. They're helping to not only educate me on learning the value of everything I am doing at camp right now, but they're also giving me access to resources. And it goes back to Lauren's question about virtually training staff. If you have opportunities throughout the year for your staff to be able to talk to professionals, have access to guidance and mentors and other resources, whether it's to help them with their resume, help them interview to get into college if they're at that age, helping them interview for real jobs, for professional jobs if they don't want to be at camp anymore, if that's not in their life plan. Definitely showing them the value and helping to make sure that they know that they're appreciated, even if camp's not happening this summer. And definitely with a great platform like Click to Camp, it's going to be a great opportunity to give your staff some camp experience and to be able to maybe have them hosting virtual sessions, having virtual cabins. There's so many opportunities that can come virtually this year. Any other questions? Of course. Do you have any advice on how to teach staff to deal with parents that interject during meetings? I have virtual, okay, that was going to be my next question. During virtual meetings, I'm going to guess that these are younger staff that you're referring to, and I've been there. Having to deal with parents all the time. I used to work for an organization called BBYO for a number of years, and I get it with parents. I think what is really important is, again, going back, and I know I keep going back to it, but for a camp counselor, just like to someone who's an employer who they're interviewing with for a job, it's being able to say, hey, mom and dad, this is so important to my professional career. By me being able to be on these meetings and doing everything I'm doing with camp, especially virtually, the parents understanding that it's more than just summer camp. It's more than just a summer job, but we're developing these staff members, and what they're doing right now, especially in this pandemic, which is something we have never experienced in our lifetimes. The staff who are taking part in virtual camp this summer are really setting the precedent of what camp is going to be like forever. And that's not saying camp is going to only be virtual and we're not going to be back in person, because that's not going to happen. But really helping the parents understand it, just like we need an employer to understand what the value is of being a camp staff member. These are great questions. I appreciate it. So another great question from Jenna. It says, when working with students to gain interview experience, how do you coach them to best market themselves in a professional setting and showcasing those strong qualities? It is so unique to every person. It depends what type of camp they're coming from, if the camp is of a religious affiliation, what type of job that they're looking for, or whether they're trying to get into college. I really try to learn as much as I can about them. And so for me, one of my roles whenever I was on the head staff at Emma Kaufman Camp, I was the unit head of the Sabra unit, which was sound cut out. Can you hear me now? Yes. Okay, great. So one of my summers, I was the unit head of 3rd and 4th grade children, about 250 of them. And that was very different than another summer where I was the athletic supervisor, where I was only managing 8 staff, but we were putting on the athletic programs, our tournaments and leagues and everything. So it really depends on what that person's experience was at camp, and then being able to talk through it. Because if you're someone who wants to, for example, work in operations and sports, and you have that athletic supervisor background, you're going to talk a lot about how you were managing your staff, how you were helping them schedule, how you were putting on these tournaments and leagues, handling all of the logistics behind them. Very different than when I was the unit head for 3rd and 4th graders. And I was very much responsible for making sure that these 250 children were safe and they were having the time of their lives, while also making sure that the 40 plus staff were doing everything they needed to do while taking care of all of these children. Again, handling the logistics, but also I'm making sure that they're taking meds. I'm making sure that they're staying hygienic and doing all these things. So it really just depends who we're talking to. Okay. So the question from Amanda, normally when training staff, we're providing first aid, dealing with difficult situations, breakdown and scenarios, etc. Do you have alternate suggestions for specific training sessions? Absolutely, and that's a great question. And I know we're getting close to our time on this session. So again, I'm happy to connect with anybody after this conference as well. But Amanda, to answer your question, that goes back to my understanding and respect that camp professional staff are spread so thin that, just like you said, you're providing training, you're doing the first aid, you're dealing with all these situations. How can I also give my staff this opportunity to get this focus and get this training? I mean, of course, if I'm plugging a little bit of self-promotion, that's where my new summer is coming in. We want to be able to come to camps. Another sound. I'm hoping it's just my sound, Lindsay. I'm not sure if it's just yours or if it's me. I hope we can get that worked on.
I gotta say, I hear you perfectly. So guys,
okay.
If you're having some sound problems, that might be depending on your internet connection. So you can get closer to your router or use the hotspot. Sorry for the interruption.
Thank you, Liron. Yeah, Lindsay, I'm sorry, but again, hopefully she can hear me. Happy to chat and connect. If someone wants to type and let her know, she can contact me anytime. Amanda, but just to go back to your question, really that's where we're coming in. We want to be able to put some relief towards you so we can come in and focus on the staff, but we understand not everybody has the means to be able to do that. And whether it's finding your oldest staff members who can really do it or building programs, doing a lot of research, because it all depends on the amount of staff that you have. And again, my appreciation to camp professionals around the world. I understand that you're doing everything all the time. You're wearing so many hats. My first suggestion is to see how you can outsource it, or maybe if you can potentially send a staff member of yours to some sort of conference where they can learn these skills to be able to come back and take the lead with their counselors. But also there are so many other webinar options that happen throughout the year to make sure that they're getting trained properly and they're getting this focus. I hope that answers your question the best that I could. I'm looking forward to it. And with that, I know we are at our time mark. So I greatly appreciate everybody for sitting in on this. Again, please reach out to me. Enjoy the blog post about the camp staff. I am a camp lifer, and I'm very excited to be in the camp world from a different lens. But for me, knowing that I can do everything I can to help make your lives easier, help the thousands and thousands of camp staff this summer who are looking for something to do. That's what we're offering at My New Summer. We're building a great community. We're going to be coming to your camp in future summers to be able to do some of these sessions, provide virtual opportunities throughout the year. So please get in touch with me at any point. But other than that, I thank you all very much, and I hope you enjoy your next session.